Where's that thing? Oh, hello guys, what are you all doing in there? Welcome back to John's workshop. In this video we're going to be replacing this rubbishy thing for the bandsaw. So I'll join you in a minute as we start to get some materials cut ready for replacing this very sturdy vertical bandsaw table. Alright guys, I've looked out. I knew I'd got this kicking around. It's not ideal because it's got loads of holes in it, and on the back side it's got loads of pockets and all sorts of other bits and pieces in it. So this was again it was another fixture plate from industry at some point, but if you look at the sizes of it, it's about perfect to replace this crappy thing. So it's a little bit thick. I think we're talking probably 10 or 12 mil thick. We'll just have a look. It's neither. Oh no, it's probably 12 with a skim that it's had on it. So just under 12 mil thick. So you know there's a bit of weight in that, but that's not, the weight itself's not a problem, other than manhandling the thing in and out. So which it's not too heavy for that. I've got some thick walled tubing, so this is, I think it's inch square tubing by, it's thick walled, it's 1/8 of an inch, so 25 mil by 3 mil, or inch by 1/8 thick wall. So we're going to be making the basic framework from this to support this in place. It's going to design as it goes really. I'm not really doing any drawings for this because it's fairly simple, so I'm just going to kind of make it up as I go along, which is always a recipe for disaster. So the first thing, we're going to get some of this tubing cut to the right lengths that I need. Then we're going to figure out what we're going to do with this to A, clean it up for a start, and then B, work out how that's going to be. I think with a slot through here into this centre section for the blade to run through, I think that'll be okay, to be honest. The fact it's got other holes in it, I don't think will be a problem, and if it is, I can always try and plug them with something or weld them or whatever and re-skim it, but I really don't think it'll be an issue. So I'll bring you back in a bit when we're cutting some steel off. Right then guys, we're going to give this a whirl. So I've got the cutter that came with the machine, which is questionable. I think I'm going to be polite and call it questionable in terms of an inserted fly cutter. So we've got that set up in the spindle, and what I want to do is just clean the actual cutting face of the bandsaw table up. What I've done is given it a bit of a dust off with a angle grinder, just with a flap disc on, just to get rid of the worst of the rust. And then after that thought, right, what do? Do I stick with it like that? I've actually checked the flatness on the surface table with a clock, and it's within, I don't know, it's probably within 12 thou, something like that, 15 thou, with local pocket dips here and there. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, for a bandsaw table that's probably perfectly good enough, to be honest. You know, let's not forget what we're coming from and what we're going to. You know, so I think I think it would be fine as it is, but well, we've got it off. Let's see if we can improve it. So we're going to give this cutter a whirl and see what happens. I don't hold out a lot of hope for it because I've tried it once before and it's just... I used to think the noise I got from the head on this machine was from the gears in the head, and it actually isn't. The more I've listened to it, the sort of clack 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 noise you get with a fly cutter or something like this, it's actually coming from the motor, and it's due to the way that the power's being supplied to the machine through the phase converter, I think. And it'd be a bit of gearbox noise, but most of the horrible sort of rattly noise is actually coming from the motor, which is quite strange. But again, I think these converters are geared up to give a constant load against a constant load, if you like, on the motor, and obviously a fly cutter is not a constant load, it's constantly varying, so I think that's where the noise comes from. Anyway, we're going to give this a shot and I'm going to go for really light cuts and just see what happens. So I'll take you on that journey. Not too bad. I'll persevere and bring you back when we're nearly done. Right then guys, we're setting up to put the slot in for the bandsaw blade at the back. So I've got this sat on a couple of parallels and I've just clocked it up. I thought I'd just show you that. It's difficult to show because I'm clocking on a sort of rough sawn face, but for what I'm doing here, this is going to be perfectly good enough. So that's within about half a thou across that back face, as best I can measure it on that rough face over the full length. So over half the length, that's, yeah, plenty good enough for a clearance slot for a bandsaw blade. So I'll bring you back in a minute when we start cutting metal. Right, what I now need to do is find the centre line to come in here, and again it only needs to be somewhere near for what I'm doing, but visually I'd like it to look like it's on centre across these holes that are in, so I'm just going to do it a quick way. So I've got my end mill in that I'm going to use for the slotting, so I'm basically just going to use the DRO. I'm just going to wind out until I touch a position, zero my x-axis, wind across until I touch the position on the opposite side of the hole, and then use the half function on my DRO to stick the end mill in the middle of the hole. And I know I might not be on centre this way, but for what I'm doing that'll be perfectly good enough. That's the first cut done, guys. That's a 1mm depth of cut, which is taken okay. That's pushing that little end mill quite hard. I think that's a 4mm diameter end mill, so 1mm depth of cut. so I've got another 10 or 11 of those to go and we'll be through. So I'll bring you back when we get near the end. There we go guys, that should be us through now. Yep, I think so. Yep. So there we go, that's got our slotting. So next job, get this off, get that deburred, and we'll give it a trial fit. I've got a feeling I need to chop this back corner out to clear the casting on the bandsaw, so we'll know that when we trial fit this. Right then guys, we've got the slot deburred, we're just going to trial fit it. And I've got my marker pen ready, because I think I'm going to need to, yes I am. So there's a tiny bit needed at this back corner, so nothing more accurate than a marker pen needed for this. Actually we'll go a bit wider to allow for the radius of my end mill. That should be more than enough. Just going to measure distance to the front of the blade from the hole is 20mm. And my mark there is not quite enough. I'll come a bit further than that. I want a bit of clearance as well for positioning, so if you take it out to about there, about 30. Yeah, probably come a bit further than that actually. All very accurate. Yeah, we'll go for something like that. So we'll put that up on the mill now and take that corner piece out. And that, guys, is what you call total laziness. Same cutter, same setup. I could have changed the cutter out and put something a bit bigger in, but I didn't. So let's just clean that up. And obviously I've not machined all that out with a 4mm end mill because that would be really silly. I cut most of it out with a mixture of the bandsaw and the hacksaw to get the cut started, and then I could put it on the bandsaw. Obviously without a table on it, it's difficult to get a cut started, but once you've got one going, the bandsaw just about copes vertical. So got that done, both sides, popped it on here, squared it up, machined that corner out. So we'll get that off now and get it deburred. Just trial fit that now. So just deburred that corner. Let's see what it looks like. Yep. So I can go all the way in till the blade's just touching, which obviously I'm not going to do when it's in position. It'll be back slightly, not by much. And I've got plenty of clearance around that back corner there. I've gone far more than I needed, but deliberately so that I've got a bit of scope for positioning with all the welding that I now need to move on to. So that's the next job, is to start welding up all the pieces of the framework that you've seen me cut and prepare. And we're going to gradually start building the framework to support this table. So I'll bring you back when we're doing that. Right then guys, it's test fit time. This is hopefully where what I've been doing starts to become a bit clearer. So the idea is that goes in there, that foot drops down there, that's still a bit warm, and the table itself sits on there like that. So I'm pleased with that. A bit of tweaking to do, but squareness wise, by eye it looks very good. I'll check it with a square. I can always, the idea being that I can always balance this. So I've drilled, I didn't film it, but I've drilled 4 holes through here. So I've got 4 holes, so I need to mark those positions on the underside of the plate, drill and tap for M6, and then if I've got any squareness issues this way, I can always balance that out with shims or washers underneath if I need to. And if I've got any squareness issues this way to the back of the blade, that's easy to fix because there's a screw at the back that acts as a stop, and I can alter that position on the back screw to get that square that way. So I mean, that's not fixed on yet, but that's absolutely solid, which is what I was hoping for, which isn't surprising really when you look at how I build things and fabricate things. I could probably sit a car on there, I would think, and it would be okay. So I've got the little adjuster at the bottom there for the foot to go down, and that's, again, I'll just play around with, I've got some squareness sort of adjustment with that as well, and the whole idea of that foot at the bottom as a support there was that's where all the weight is, that's where you're putting the pressure on, and that's quite a good distance away from the vise. So I thought I'll just drop that foot in, and then the pressure's going straight down then through straight into the base casting, and it's not putting, you know, too much torsional pressure on this that's holding the vise, which would make it a bit shugly, as they say up here. So next job is I've got to clean these welds up on this end, get that all nice and clean. Then we'll test fit it again, we'll mark our 4 hole positions, put the plate up on the mill, drill and tap the 4 holes, and then go for a final fit just to check, a dry fit, and then we'll disassemble it all and give it a good coat of paint. So I'll bring you back at some point through that process. Alright then guys, that's just about it. I think, and I say just about it, I've got it back on there. We've still got a little bit of wet paint that I'm dealing with, so I can't test it in this video, but I will certainly be showing it in use in future videos. So I've just got a final bit of tweaking to do just to level things out a little bit, but I'll just take a few different positions so that you can see this from different angles and see the foot that you can't see at the minute because it's behind the e-stop button. So I'll just move the camera around a couple of bits and talk you through the reasoning behind this design a little bit. So what's made me go for this design? Well, two reasons really. One, the way this saw articulates to cut angles. Most of these sort of 4x6 bandsaws, it'll be the vise that tips around. On this bandsaw the vise is static, and it's actually the whole bandsaw unit that tips around at an angle. And what I first looked at was, and I've seen some people do it, they've fixed a small plate to the actual saw itself, the saw unit itself, and that can stay in place all the time, even when you're cutting in the horizontal mode. With my saw, because of the way the head articulates, that just wouldn't happen because it would be fouling against the back of the vise when you want to cut an angle. So that design was out right from the get-go. And what I wanted was something that takes 2 seconds to put in and 2 seconds to take out, and that's what this design does. So it's literally as easy as you undo the vise, get hold of it, lift it out, put it somewhere. When you want to cut vertical again, put it back in, drop it in, nip the vise up, good to go. And I also wanted something that was as big as I could get it for cutting on, and also something that was super sturdy, and I think I've achieved that, and I'm sure you'll all agree that's far heavier duty than it really needs to be, but far better that way than far too light as the previous one was. So really happy with that. That's going to make a really good addition to the bandsaw and to the workshop. I'll just spin you around, take a final shot in so you can see the foot. So there we go guys, you can see the foot unit there at the bottom, which is taking all of the load and all of the weight straight down into that base casting. So, and also, as I said, adjustable on here so that I can tweak a little bit this way should I need to. And I've still to check squareness and set all this up yet. I've just got some wet paint going on around these holes. I masked the top plate up while I did the painting, and obviously the holes, there's quite a bit of paint sunk into there and that's still not quite dry yet. So as I took the masking off, I can see it's bled out a little bit, so I've just got a bit of clean up to do on that once this is properly dry. And then what I'll do is I'll lift the blade guard up and I'll check squareness from the table to the blade in both axes, and I'll tweak it till we've got it right. So I'll just finish this video off now, and that'll be the end of this episode. So there we go guys, that's the vertical bandsaw table complete, other than a final bit of alignment and cleanup. So I hope you've all enjoyed that. It's been an interesting project, and I hope it might have given somebody some ideas of, if they want to do something similar, how they can make something that you can just lift up, drop in 2 seconds, and you've got a really, really sturdy vertical bandsaw table. So thank you all for watching, thank you all for subscribing as always, and to the new subscribers who've come along, and we'll catch you all very soon in another video when we'll be making something else.